Good evening and welcome to First Baptist Church Wednesday night Bible service. We're sure glad to have you here tonight. I don't know if we should do this or not, but just in case you didn't know it, our pastor's birthday was yesterday.
Yes.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear pastor. Happy birthday to you. Woohoo!
One more time.
So this first song, the last line of the chorus has puzzled me for years. I mean, I've literally avoided it because it's puzzled me so much. So we sang it Sunday, and I had a lot of people give me different explanations for it. But then Archie came up after class, and he hit the nail on the head. The whole course of this song, you'll notice, is 2 Timothy 1:12. At the end it says, I've committed to keep that which I've committed unto him against that day. That's what always baffled me, but against that day. Well, then I got to thinking, I got this throw pillow on my couch that a friend of mine gave me. It's real pretty. It's got a guitar on it, and it says, the talent, let me read this right. So, your talent is God's gift to you. What you do with that talent is your gift to God. So that's what explains this whole song to me. The whole last line makes sense now. So when it says, at the end of it, when it says that I've committed to him against that day, that means whatever talent you have with you, everybody has talent. It's there. You just got to use it. I don't care if it's cooking and cleaning and raising kids, digging ditches, or chopping down trees. Everybody has talent. But if you commit it to him, you will have it against that day. Till the day we go and meet him, we're still doing what he gave us. Now, if I can get you to stand, we'll see how we all do on the last line of that chorus. I know not why God's wondrous grace to me hath made known, nor why unworthy Christ in love redeemed me for his own. But I know whom I have believed, and am persuaded that he is able to keep that which I committed unto him against that day. I know not how this saving faith to me he did impart, nor how believing in his word brought peace within my heart. But I know whom I have believed, and am persuaded that he is able to keep that which I've committed unto him against that day. I know not when my Lord may come at night or noonday fair, nor if I walk the vale with him or meet him in the air. But I know whom I have believed, and am persuaded that he is able to keep that which I've committed unto him against that day. But I know whom I have believed, and am persuaded that he is able to keep that which I've committed unto him against that day. Amen. This kind of falls right after that, doesn't it? Troublesome times are here, filling men's hearts with fear. Freedom we all hold dear, now is at stake. Humble your heart to God, salvation of casting rod. Keep the way pilgrims fly, Christians away. Jesus is coming soon, morning or night or noon. Many will meet their doom. trumpets will sound. All of the dead shall rise, righteous meeting the skies, going where no one dies, heaven bound. Troubles will soon be o'er, happy forevermore, when we meet on the shore, free from all care, rising up in the sky, telling the world goodbye. Home we then shall fly, glory to share. Jesus is coming soon, morning or night or noon, many will meet their doom, trumpets will sound. All of the dead shall rise, righteous meet in the skies, going where no one dies, heavenward bound. Jesus is coming soon, morning or night or noon, many will meet their doom, trumpets will sound. All of the dead shall rise, righteous meet in the skies, going where no one dies, heavenward bound. Have a seat.
All right, thank you, ladies. Open your Bibles tonight to Proverbs chapter 14. We're going to look at chapter 14 and 15. If we have time, we'll look at chapter 16 as well. Proverbs chapter 14. Last time, we looked at chapters 12 and 13. Those were very fine chapters. I hope you had an opportunity for that study. Chapter 14, Proverbs chapter 14. Again, we're in the middle of the wisdom literature of Solomon as he writes these words. And you'll be able to tell in more than one way tonight that this is being written by Solomon specifically and by a king as well. He mentions that word multiple times. We'll see that as well. Proverbs chapter 14, verse 1. The wise woman builds her house, but with her own hands the foolish one tears hers down. That's an interesting introduction or a first sentence because women never built houses. So this is interesting terminology. Women don't build houses much today. I guess hypothetically you could. Cherry and I, my wife and I, had a house built 3 years ago. Neither she nor I had anything to do with the building of the house itself. We just watched other people build it. But all the people who built it were men, every single one of them. There wasn't a single female among them. And most of them didn't speak English. But they were excellent builders, and they were all men. But hypothetically, women could build a house today. Back then, even hypothetically, women did not build houses. That was what men did. And so personifying wisdom, here is a woman because wisdom is personified as a woman. And so the writer says it that way. The wise woman builds her house. Of course, he's speaking about the house of wisdom, but with her own hands, the foolish one tears her house down. Speaking of her family. Verse 2. He whose walk is upright fears the Lord, but he whose ways are devious despises him. A fool's talk brings a rod to his back, but the lips of the wise protect them. Again, these sayings are a blessing and a challenge because, as you see already in 3 verses in, one verse may have nothing to do with the next verse. Or you may see, and we will see this tonight, a group of verses in a particular chapter may be very thematic and very much connected to one another. It just happens to be that way, and so some of them are connected and some of them are not. They're all talking about wisdom in one way or another. A lot of this in chapters 14, 15, and 16, as well as the rest of the Proverbs, but you'll see it particularly tonight. When it talks about wisdom, it speaks of talking, verbalizing things, like in verse 3. In verse 2, he says, whose walk is upright, but in verse 3, he says, a fool's talk. You'll see a lot about talk tonight, or what we say. A fool's talk brings a rod to his back, but the lips of the wise protect them. I mentioned to you last time when we had a police officer here who's a member of our church, how often we see, Cherry and I watch online, and we see these shows of people who get arrested, and the police officer says you have a right to remain silent, and often when they're intoxicated, they don't take them up on that offer. They just can't seem to keep quiet. The foolishness comes out of them, and they implicate themselves, and I just yell at the TV, stop talking, stop talking, stop talking, because they end up, I'm sure, once they sober up, wishing to goodness if they just had kept quiet. A fool's talk brings a rod to his back. My mom kept a board behind the kitchen sink in full view. If she ever inscribed anything on it, she didn't, but if she did, it would probably have been this verse. A fool's talk brings a rod to his back, but the lips of the wise protect them. Verse 4, where there are no oxen, the manger is empty, but from the strength of an ox comes an abundant harvest. The NIV Study Bible says, perhaps the thought is that men need to take care of their oxen if they expect an abundant harvest. That's the idea. Verse 5, a truthful witness does not deceive, but a false witness pours out lies. The mocker, that's verbal, again, mockers mock verbally. The mocker seeks wisdom and finds none, but knowledge comes easily to the discerning. Stay away from a foolish man, for you will not find knowledge on his lips. Again, speaking. The wisdom of the prudent is to give thought to their ways, but the folly of fools is deception. Fools mock at making amends for sin, but goodwill is found among the upright. Each heart knows its own bitterness, and no one else can share its joy. The house of the wicked will be destroyed, but the tent of the upright will flourish. There is a way that seems right to a man, but in the end it leads to death. We're going to see that verse again tonight. Even in laughter, the heart may ache, and joy may end in grief. The faithless will be the faithless will be fully repaid for their ways, and the good man rewarded for his. A simple man believes anything, but a prudent man gives thought to his steps. A wise man fears the Lord and shuns evil, but a fool is hot-headed and reckless. A quick-tempered man does foolish things, and a crafty man is hated. The simple inherit folly, but the prudent are crowned with knowledge. By the way, we could spend some time on different translations, and you may be using a different translation, and your translation may be using different words for a lot of these. Not right or wrong, just different. Verse 19, evil men will bow down in the presence of the good, and the wicked at the gates of the righteous. Gates, by the way, are often references to the gates of the city where kings and judges pass judgment on the guilty at trial. And we have courthouses for that, but the gates of the city are often public places where they would pass judgment. Verse 20, the poor are shunned even by their neighbors, but the rich have many friends. He who despises his neighbor's sins, but he who despises his neighbor sins. But blessed is he who is kind to the needy. Do not those who plot evil go astray, but those who plan what is good find love and faithfulness. All hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. By the way, speaking of 23, don't forget, I've challenged you, and your pastor is not overly oppressive. I've challenged you to memorize how many verses? Out of Proverbs. our study of Proverbs, the whole book. I've challenged you to memorize how many verses? Two verses in the whole book. Find 2 verses you really like, and you don't have to. I can't force you. I'm not your mama, but I challenge you to memorize 2 verses. If you're sitting there thinking, "Wow, all right, what 2 verses should I memorize?" I'm glad you asked. I think verse 23 is a good one. All hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. So that would be good for my kids to learn. Verse 24, the wealth of the wise is their crown, but the folly of fools yields folly. A truthful witness saves lives, but a false witness is deceitful. He who fears the Lord has a secure fortress, and for his children it will be a refuge. The fear of the Lord is a fountain of life, turning a man from the snares of death. A large population is a king's glory. Again, who's writing this? Solomon, who is a king. A large population is a king's glory, but without subjects, a prince is ruined. A patient man has great understanding, but a quick-tempered man displays folly. Let me say that again. A patient man has great understanding, but a quick-tempered man displays folly. What would we do without YouTube? It comforts us to know that there are people even less patient than us. Cherry and I watch airline passengers going berserk at 30,000 feet. We travel internationally, and so we end up watching travel shows and people misbehaving in international flights. It's amazing what people will do when they're on an international flight. Of course, the problem with these long flights, when they're 10, 12, 16 hours long, is that they drink. They don't have anything to do, so they drink. Or some people are very nervous at flying, and then they're frightened at flying because there's turbulence up there, and so they drink. Or they're mad at somebody, so they drink. So whatever happens, they just end up drinking. And when they drink, they misbehave. Some people don't misbehave because they drink, because they're just bad people. And so you put them in a tin can at 30,000 feet, and they don't get out in public a lot. I don't get the impression. So I don't know what they think they're going to accomplish, but they'll go berserk on an airplane at 30,000 feet. Or they're yelling, or they're making demands at the ticket counter at the airport, only to be drug out of there by police. Now, Cherry may think I'm impatient, but I've never been drug out of an airport by police, so I feel a lot better about myself. Well, the guy who wrote Proverbs, Solomon, says a patient man has great understanding, but a quick-tempered man displays folly. And again, if it weren't for that one fact, we wouldn't even have YouTube, I don't think. Verse 30, a heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones. He who oppresses the poor shows contempt for their maker, but whoever is kind to the needy honors God. Let me restate that again. He who oppresses the poor shows contempt for their maker, but whoever is kind to the needy honors God. This is Solomon saying how you treat your poor. This is a king speaking. And he realizes that how he treats the poor in his country affects his relationship with God. And he says that to you and I, that how we treat poor people affects our relationship with God. He who oppresses the poor shows contempt for their maker, for God. But whoever is kind to the needy honors God. So it both damages our relationship or it helps our relationship with God, depending on how we treat the needy in our life and in our world. Jesus tells us that quite a bit. For example, if you look with me in Matthew chapter 25, verse 33, a famous passage. Matthew 25:33, Jesus says this: "He will put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. Then the king," the story of a king, "will say to those on his right, 'Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat.'" This is the king speaking. "I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." Then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or need clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison or go to visit you?" The king will reply, "I tell you the truth. Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did for me." 1,000 years earlier, Solomon is trying to tell us this wisdom, this lesson. All right, back to our passage. Verse 32. "When calamity comes, the wicked are brought down, but even in death the righteous have a refuge. Wisdom reposes in the heart of the discerning, and even among fools she lets herself be known. Righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a disgrace to any people. A king delights in a wise servant, but a shameful servant incurs his wrath." That's Proverbs chapter 14. Do you have any questions or comments or additions you would like to make to anything in chapter 14? Yes.
Women do build their houses. They build, you could say, their homes. They aren't building
They don't build the structure.
a
Yeah.
house,
Yeah, they build their family.
and they can tear it down.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. I'll agree with that. And that's what he's getting at, really. Yes. They can. Do what? Yes. Okay, there are exceptions to the rule. Okay, that's a general principle. I'll get comments on Facebook about that. Okay, ladies, I know you can build a house. You're perfectly capable. Yeah.
Verse 4 in the translation I have says, "Where there are no oxen, the crib is clean. What with much increase is by the strength of the ox." And that made me chuckle because, we want, for me, sometimes I want the things, but I don't want the mess that goes with it.
Yeah.
And, it goes hand in hand. And
That's-
it's comical to be the reminder, the mess is the evidence that you have the oxen, that you have the stuff. If you want clean, then have nothing.
That's right. That's a very good point.
It takes effort to get prosperity or
It does. That's very true. That's right.
Isn't there another verse somewhere about empty barns?
There probably is.
The
Yeah.
barn is empty. You're not making any money.
Right.
Yeah.
Nothing's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Proverbs chapter 15. As we start Proverbs chapter 15, I want you to notice that verses 1 through 2, verses 4, 7, 14, 23, and 28 refer to talking, which is a subject that is frequently addressed in Proverbs, and we already saw some of that in chapter 14. But speaking is a major theme in chapter 15. Beginning in chapter 1, we'll see this immediately. In verse 1 and verse 2 as well. "A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." Again, good verses to memorize. Verse 2, The tongue of the wise commends knowledge, but the mouth of the fool gushes folly. It's an interesting term, gushes. The wise not only possesses knowledge, but their use of it makes it attractive and desirable. The fool, however, gushes, literally means to bubble forth. It's also going to be used in another verse later in the chapter. It bubbles forth his folly. It just keeps on gushing out. Again, like the drunk guy with the police, he just keeps on blubbering out bad things to get himself in deeper and deeper and deeper, and he can't seem to stop talking.
And they never listen to you.
They never listen. His many words, bubbling out like water from a spring, show how foolish he is. Verse 3. The eyes of the Lord are everywhere, keeping watch on the wicked and the good. It's interesting, in verse 1, 2, and 4, it talks about the tongue, except in verse 3. But sandwiched in between that, it talks about God. Instead of talking about the tongue of God, it talks about the eyes of God. The eyes of the Lord are everywhere, keeping watch on the wicked and the good. Now, I've read one commentary that equated this to a watchman on a watchtower. I may be reading a little bit too much into it, but a watchman on the watchtower watches all around. That's their purpose in the watchtower. And God is always watching. The eyes of God are everywhere. Verse 4, the tongue that brings healing is a tree of life, but a deceitful tongue crushes the spirit. Also a great verse to learn. Words can encourage or depress an individual. Let me read it again. Verse 4, the tongue that brings healing is a tree of life. Again, that terminology, a tree of life, that picture is in Proverbs many times. We've already seen it many times. But a deceitful tongue crushes the spirit. So words can encourage or depress an individual. Words that bring healing, that contribute to a person's emotional health, are like a tree of life, a source of strength and growth. Words that are deceitful, some translations will translate that word subversive, can crush the spirit or depress one's morale. As I challenged you last week as we went out, I said, try to use words that heal people rather than wound them. And we have great power to do either one. Verse 5. By the way, I remember when I was in school, particularly high school and junior high. Now, I was a boy. You know, the Pope, I'm glad I'm not the Pope. You know, he's the Pope. And now they're going back all through his history to find any bad thing he ever said or any dumb thing he ever did. And because he's human. And I'm not Pope material because I was a kid once in junior high and high school, and I said and did dumb things. I mean, I didn't get arrested or anything, but I said and did dumb things. And I remember as a kid, you know, in band every day, we just tried to think of the most awful things to say to each other. You know, boys. Just, they would say awful things and I would say awful things. And we didn't have a brain in our head. We weren't very good with words. We just said the same insults every day. But it was just awful. We just tried to think of awful things. We deliberately thought of awful things to say to each other. But I don't know if adults, if we're much better to each. Oh, well, we are at church. I mean, you're nice at church. We're lovely to each other at church. But out in the real world, sometimes we're not any more kind to each other. At least not on YouTube. So there you go again. So we can heal people or we can crush their spirit. That's amazing. Verse 5. A fool spurns his father's discipline, but whoever heeds correction shows prudence. The house of the righteous contains great treasure, but the income of the wicked brings them trouble. The lips of the wise spread knowledge, Not so the hearts of the fools. By the way, the lips, they're speaking again. The Lord detests the sacrifice of the wicked, but the prayer of the upright pleases him. Prayer is a verbal thing, again. Verse 9, the Lord detests the way of the wicked, but he loves those who pursue righteousness. Stern discipline awaits him who leaves the path. He who hates correction will die. Death and destruction lie open before the Lord. How much more the hearts of men? A mocker, again, verbal, a mocker resents correction. He will not consult the wise. I love verse 13. A happy heart makes the face cheerful, but heartache crushes the spirit. Here's the same terminology. By the way, verses 13 through 15 refer to a happy heart, a discerning heart, a cheerful heart, inner joy that shows on a person's face, but inner grief, that is heartache, that depresses a person's morale or crushes the spirit. Happiness and depression are issues of the heart. What a person is inwardly has more lasting impact on our emotional state than do our circumstances. Some people hold up under difficult circumstances better than others because of their inner strength. Does that make sense? I know people that can't take anything. I mean, they just fold under the slightest. I mean, somebody looks at them wrong and they just fall apart. I know other people, you can't faze them. And it's the same with, again, YouTube, police officers. There are police officers on YouTube. That people go up to them and they're cussing them out and they're spitting on the police officer and they're yelling at them and they're saying every bad word in the book. And the police officer is just standing there all calm. It doesn't faze him. Now, if he gets spit on, they may get arrested, but he is not responding emotionally. He's not yelling. He's not personally involved in this in any way at all. He is a rock. He's just calm, collected, and I love that. There are other police officers. One guy, I saw a video where one guy smirks and he got arrested just for smirking. and that police officer's whole world crumbled because that one guy smirked at him. He didn't like that. And so some people just don't have, by the way, preachers are the same way. Some people just don't have the disposition for this job or to be a police officer. You've got to have some thick skin, because you're going to get criticized, and probably your job is the same, whatever job you have. Some people just have thicker skin than others, and they don't last very long if they don't. All right, so where was I? So he says, I love these terms in this verse and the ones to follow. Verse 13 again, a happy heart makes the face cheerful, but heartache crushes the spirit. The discerning heart seeks knowledge, but the mouth of a fool feeds on folly. All the days of the oppressed are wretched, but the cheerful heart has a continual feast. By the way, that's a good one to learn too. All the days of the oppressed are wretched, but the cheerful heart has a continual feast. Better a little with the fear of the Lord than great wealth with turmoil. Better a meal of vegetables where there is love than a fattened calf with hatred. So verse 17 contrasts poverty, having a mere meal of vegetables, with prosperity, a fattened calf. Normally, people would choose luxury over poverty. But what is more important is love. Many people have found that a home where material possessions are few, but they have a lot of love for one another, if that's present, is far better than a house of great opulence where people hate each other. Love makes one's difficult circumstances endurable, whereas hatred undoes all the enjoyments that good food might otherwise bring. I tell you, we go to the Philippines, and some of the poorest people in the world live in the Philippines. Manila has the second largest slum in the world, second only to Mumbai, or Bombay, what we used to call Bombay in India. I've been there too. And just millions of people, just horribly impoverished. But I see people, particularly in the Philippines, as impoverished as they are. They make the best of it. They realize this is their life, and I see them finding a grasshopper to play with. Kids find a piece, what we call a piece of trash, and they'll make a game out of it. They'll make jacks or something, and they'll laugh and they'll play with virtually nothing. And then you can come here, and in all of our wealth and opulence, people are impossible to please. We fight and we fuss and we're unhappy with all that we've been given. And so that's what the wise old Solomon is talking about here. Verse 18. A hot-tempered man stirs up dissension, but a patient man calms a quarrel. Again, another good verse to learn. Verse 19, the way of the sluggard, I like that word sluggard, by the way. That's very descriptive. The way of the sluggard is blocked with thorns, but the path of the upright is a highway. A wise son brings joy to his father. Amen. But a foolish man despises his mother. Folly delights a man who lacks judgment, but a man of understanding keeps a straight course. Plans fail for the lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed. Now, 4 times in the book of Proverbs, it focuses on the importance of getting advice from others in regard to one's plans. And I remember we talked about this once or twice before in chapter 11, here in chapter 15. We'll see it again in chapter 20 and in chapter 24. And here in verse 22, plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed. Verse 23, a man finds joy in giving an apt reply. And how good is a timely word? The path of life leads upward for the wise to keep him from going down to the grave. The Lord tears down the proud man's house, but he keeps the widow's boundaries intact. The Lord detests the thoughts of the wicked, but those of the pure are pleasing to him. A greedy man brings trouble to his family, but he who hates bribes will live. The heart of the righteous weighs its answers, but the mouth of the wicked gushes evil. There's the word gushes again and again, speaking of the mouth. The Lord is far from the wicked, but he hears the prayer of the righteous. And again, here's attitude. A cheerful look brings joy to the heart, and good news gives health to the bones. Good news is verbal, where you have something good to say to somebody that it gives health to the bones. It makes them happy. But what's interesting, it says the first part in verse 30, a cheerful look brings joy to the heart. What brings joy to the heart, you don't even have to say anything. Just a cheerful look. You go to the store, or you go to a restaurant, and it's just how your waiter looks at you, or how you look at your waiter. It may just be the person at the counter at Racetrack when you're getting your gas or your soda pop. It may just be a smile and a nice disposition that may actually make their day, or not. There's power in a big smile and a nice disposition. And the other way is true too. And so I love that. That's a good verse, by the way, verse 30. A tearful look brings joy to the heart, and good news gives health to the bone. A positive person's encouragement, whether nonverbal, a cheerful look. By the way, literally, this could be translated as bright eyes. Your translation may say that. Bright eyes. And you know what that means? Bright eyes. A cheerful look or bright eyes. Or it could be verbal. Good news is helpful and uplifting. Verse 31, he who listens to a life-giving rebuke will be at home among the wise. He who ignores discipline despises himself, but whoever heeds correction gains understanding. Very much the theme of the book. Verse 33, he gives us the theme again. The fear of the Lord teaches a man wisdom, and humility comes before honor. Notice each of verses 24 and 26 through 33 refers directly or indirectly to a characteristic of the godly, using the words wise in verse 24, humble, verse 33, pure, verse 26, honest in 27, cautious, 28, prayerful, 29, joyful, verse 30, teachable, verse 31 and 2, and reverent before the Lord in verse 33. Wisdom can even keep a person from a premature death, a point that is often made in the book of Proverbs. It won't guarantee a long life, but foolish people tend to get themselves killed, especially 3,000 years ago. But a lot of times today, foolish people go out and get themselves killed, even in the 21st century. All right, any comments or questions about Proverbs 15? Yes.
About the bright eyes, I have a habit of when I'm going in or out of a store, is look and see if someone catches my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm smiling, a lot of times I'll get a smile back.
Yeah,
Now, just because you smile doesn't obligate the other guy to smile back at you.
yeah.
But so many times, if you're smiling and you catch somebody's eye, you get a smile in return.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That works with your family too, by the way. It works good with your spouse and with your kids. If my kids were in here, I'd say it works with your parents. If you just look at your family members with a happy disposition, it really sets a tone. The other disposition sets a tone too. I've been married long enough, I'm not a guru, but 27 years. I can look at my wife and she can look at me, and we can know without saying a word what kind of attitude we're in, what kind of mood we're in. And a lot of times I'll think my wife is upset when she's not, because I read her look. And I misread her look. She didn't realize she's giving me that look. Or she misread my look, or not. It's really important to have the right disposition. It sets a tone in a relationship and a marriage, but with our kids. My kids come up, they don't even want to look at us. Because then we're going to want to go, what's going on? Where you been? What have you been doing? They don't want to get the grilling. And so just relaxing, set a nice tone, smile at the kids, really relaxes things a lot. Yes?
Is it possible that you misinterpret somebody's look or face? Her face may be reacting to something she's thinking or something she's contemplating. It has absolutely nothing to do with it.
It could be something she's thinking. I never know what my wife is thinking. So,
That's above your pay grade.
yeah, that's above my pay grade. That's right. Yes, yes. Although my wife is wonderful, by the way. She's very sweet. I have to say that. I'll get in trouble, so. But she is very sweet, by the way. She has a very good disposition, actually. All right. So we're going to stop right there and look at our prayer sheet for the week, and we will continue in Proverbs 16 next Wednesday night.